What's up, War Rapport family? We are back with another great edition of the Weekend Tailgate. Auburn had their last scrimmage of the fall, and it's game week. How did they do? We'll talk about it on today's Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by Golden's Cast Iron. C-Dub, Like Joe, Be Will, By G. You are now listening to
What's up, and good morning, War Rapport family. It's Sunday, Caesar. We're here. We got a special guest today.
Is it a guest now?
Yeah, I mean, that's how long it's been.
Oh,
Feels like a guest, but joining us is B. Will here.
Hey,
I think we're going to talk about. We're going to slander.
I'm light skinned.
Just because. Guys, let's jump right in here. Before we get started, you guys do the necessary. Please share the video. If you're on social media, this helps us get the word out. So please, at the War Rapport, hashtag get your weight up. Make sure people can find our content. Also, like the video and subscribe on YouTube. If you like that video, that boosts us in the algorithm, and we appreciate that. Now, where can you find us? Well, we're at the War Rapport on X and Instagram. We're also TW Rapport on TikTok. Also, before we get started here, want to talk about joining. Guys, join as a member. Caesar, handle that thing for me. Join as a member. Look, guys, we appreciate everybody who joins our community. We've talked about this. These are like micro sponsorships. So if you want to help us continue to do a lot of the work you're seeing, Ike and I spent a month at Media Days. All that stuff is not free, but you guys help make it happen when you join as a member. Help us grow the Green Name Gang here in the chat. Also, you can give the gift of the War Rapport by hitting that gifted membership button. We appreciate everybody who does that as well. Guys, last but not least, check us out on podcasts, every single podcast platform, the Auburn Express, Uptempo, College, and Just a Sec, bringing you guys lots of great audio-only content. Fellas, happy Sunday. Before we get into anything, who watched FSU Georgia Tech last night?
Man, I watched some of it. I feel bad for Florida State.
Do you?
I don't. And it's not because of this year. It's not because of this year. This year, they aren't that good. They should get beat up and down the field plenty of times. It's that they got robbed of the opportunity to get skunked in the playoff. True, it would have been a bad game.
Yeah.
But we had plenty of bad playoff games over the course of however long we've been doing this tournament thing. They had the right to get beat up and down the field by a playoff contender, and instead they had to settle for Georgia Tech. That's not fair.
Yeah, look, Saban on game day said that Georgia Tech was his sleeper.
He did.
And I love having somebody of Nick Saban's caliber on game day talking football and projecting and making predictions, because he's going to crush everybody at that. Now, I don't remember anybody on the panel picking Georgia Tech to win the game, though.
Right.
Except for Seamus, right? Like, he was the only dude, the Irish jig guy. So, like, it was a great game. We had a 59-yarder. And we had a top 10 upset in week one. But look, It's week one for Auburn, and they had their last scrimmage, guys. So media was not allowed to attend. Fans were not allowed to attend. Hugh Freeze was very gracious early in fall camp by letting us go see a scrimmage. We didn't get that last year. And we saw a lot of great things. But I want to start off with a report that we got from a source from the scrimmage that Payton Thorne, and I quote, has a stranglehold on this offense. That's how people inside the building are feeling. It is not coach speak. It is a feeling that is prevalent. B, you're joining us for the first time in a while, man. Look, you said last year that Hugh Freeze was going to play his guy. Well, a year later, his guy is still here. How do you feel about hearing that Payton Thorne has a stranglehold on the offense?
No surprise at all. No big moves were made in the offseason at that position, so we knew what it was going to be coming in. You got Walker White, true freshman. Yes, he can be perhaps an heir apparent, but as a true freshman, you're not going to get this job. Not over a guy who's been starting for 4 years. So what we have is Payton Thorne coming back. I know that Hank's been dubbed number 2. Okay, that's an interesting development. Kind of feel bad for Holden, but Payton Thorne, his experience,
his guy be
his guy.
Yeah, Hank is his guy.
Hank is his guy. Holden was not. So you got to understand why it's going that way. So it doesn't surprise me that Payton Thorne is the incumbent that really is, barring some catastrophe of injury or even just terrible, terrible types of plays that a quarterback can make, he will not be seated. He will be the starter. You could see command at times from Payton Thorne last year. You could see command. You could see him running things the way Hugh Freeze wanted things run. You could also see him making a few critical mistakes, but you don't know who was responsible for orchestrating the offense the way that it looked at times last year. So I get why you say, hey, if Philip Montgomery was doing a bunch of the play calling and we didn't really like it, and that was why, well, let's get him out of the rotation. I picked you because I thought you could do this stuff. Now it's you and me. Now it's you and me in the new OC. Derek, it's been a while. Forgive me. Knicks. Thank you. So now we have a more cohesive unit, a unit that all speaks the same language, and we're going to make sure what you're operating is exactly what I want you to operate. I see why you double down with your guy. I fully understand that, which is if nobody else has that experience, then how is anybody else gonna step over Payton Thorne to get that shot? You're not. He said it was his job to lose 6 months ago. That decided it was over. Once he said, oh, it's his job to lose, I was like, okay, we can stop talking about this. He ain't going nowhere. So I'm not surprised. I understand that. I just hope it goes to plan. That's what I hope. I hope it goes to plan. Obviously, you're riding with him. That means you have a good idea of what he's capable of. That means you have ensured that the playmakers around him can help him and support him and have him playing above what he played at last year. I hope that's the case, because I don't want to see those lows I saw last year. That would be inexcusable with what we brought back now.
It was systemic last year, B. And I think that the quote being that Payton Thorne has a stranglehold on the offense is something that tells me I don't think anybody had a stranglehold on the offense last year. I don't think Hugh did. I don't think Philip Montgomery did. So how would you expect Payton to? Right. Now, they fired the offensive coordinator. Obviously, they changed the systems. We've talked that to death. But I really believe that it points to the types of changes that they've made over the offseason. Now, let's review some of the things that we've heard, not only from Hugh Freeze, but from Payton Thorne himself in the one-on-ones that the War Rapport has done with them. Hugh said, Mike, I haven't talked to Payton directly about this. This was after A-Day at the time. Not directly after A-Day, but we did our interview about a week after A-Day. And he said, but I sense that he feels that we are more together as a staff. We know what we're doing and that we've been here and that we've done this before. And that puts him at ease and makes him more confident. Now, from Payton's end, he's just like, look, man, it's going to be different. And, man, I struggle with this because I can't repeat the things that he told me. But, a lot of folks have asked, hey, Mike, what's the deal with this sudden flip on Payton Thorne? Your whole attitude has changed about him. And I'm like, well, when presented with the information directly from him, I was like, how could I not?
Yeah.
That's how I felt. That's how compelling what he had to say was. It was, hey, look, man, it was this last year. It's going to be this year. And here's why. Here are the things that I feel are much better. And I love it. I like that. It seems like he has more confidence. When you say he has a stranglehold, we talked about a lot about receivers last year not being able to get separation or not being where they were supposed to be. Some would say that attributed to Payton Thorne's hesitance to pull the trigger early because he wasn't sure if a guy was going to be where he needed to be and it was going to be an interception. This year, he seems supremely confident that not only guys will be where they need to be, but that they will go up and get anything that he throws at them. Yeah. That's why you go out and get a Cam Coleman. Caesar, jump back in here. Payton Thorne has a stranglehold on the offense. In your mind, what does that mean in terms of the prospects of this offense to you?
It means that this offense is going in the right direction. It's going to resemble more of what Hugh Freeze's offenses have looked like in the past. All season long, off season, Hugh Freeze has given compliments to Payton Thorne that really didn't have anything to do with his play on the field. He talked about his leadership. He talked about him being a locker room. All of these intangibles, which are good things, that's not been our biggest critique of Payton Thorne. The biggest critique of Payton Thorne has been how he plays on the field. Yep. It wasn't until SEC media days, or it may have been prior to fall camp, Hugh Freeze met with media, and he gave a compliment about Payton Thorne that raised my eyebrow.
Okay.
He said that Payton Thorne is beginning to think like me on the field.
Ooh.
That was something that got me to thinking, okay, this might be different, because Hugh Freeze at no point last year gave Payton Thorne that type of compliment. A year ago, it was Payton Thorne is pressing. Now you're beginning to think like me. And what is the goal of the quarterback? Is to be an extension of the offensive coordinator or head coach on the field, which means this offense may actually look a lot different in year 2 under Hugh Freeze than it did under year 1. And it seems as though all of the things that we indicated that were contributing to the systemic issues of this offense may in fact have gotten addressed. Payton Thorne, as a result, seems a lot more comfortable in this offense, and he's beginning to be the quarterback Hugh Freeze saw on tape when he began to recruit him out of the transfer portal. I'm not saying he's going to be a Heisman contender. He's going to blow the doors off and throw for 300 a game. But what I am saying is we're going to see someone run the offense, which is what all Hugh Freeze is asking him to do is run this offense. And to hear those types of compliments from that Mike is hearing and receiving appears to be consistent with what we're hearing elsewhere in terms of compliments about Payton Thorne.
I like that you took it there, because one of the sound bites that we have from this fall is Payton Thorne saying that he was not allowed to make checks or call audibles last year. So when you talk about having a stranglehold on the offense, it also means that he's been given more freedom within this offense to adjust based on what he sees on the field. So, Caesar, you're talking about, hey, he's supposed to be an extension of the coach. Well, you can't truly be an extension of the coach if you are not allowed to make checks at the line.
Absolutely.
Right. So I thought it was interesting. And I wonder, was that more Philip Montgomery or was that more Hugh Freeze? Guys, my algorithm is football and hard right now. And so I was on TikTok, and Alabama and and Ole Miss popped up from years ago. It was one of Hugh Freeze's upsets. The final score was something like 53-47 or something crazy, right? And I was watching that offense. Chad Kelly was the quarterback. And, I'm watching the playmakers on the field and the play calling and the land shark defense. And I'm thinking, how much of this is Auburn's offense really going to resemble? Should we expect 2015 Ole Miss on the field offensively, or does this have the potential to look much better than that because Hugh Freeze possibly has better athletes than he ever could have gotten to Ole Miss? Now, mind you, he had Evan Ingram and he had Laquan Treadwell and he had all those guys. I leave out the year with A.J. Brown and DJ Metcalf because he finished the season as the coach. He did recruit those guys, but it was their freshman year when he left. B, what do you think, man? Is this a better version of what Hugh Freeze has done in the past, or is it just the same but effective?
It's really tough to say whether or not it's a better version of what he's done in the past, because to your point, when he actually brought in some freak wide receivers at Ole Miss, he was on the way out the door. So they didn't get a chance to grow up running his system with his quarterback of choice. He didn't get a chance to do that there. Maybe it would have gotten scary eventually, but he didn't have the chance to make that happen. Here, we actually have some ridiculous – this could be the best receiving core the school has ever had. Like, we got some years for them to grow into it.
For sure. 100%.
Assuming that they stick around and they continue to grow and develop. But this could be the best receiving core Auburn has ever had, that Hugh Freeze has ever had. So it's really tough to say, well, is it 2015? No, 2015, they had a little more experience than our guys had. But they also had who I think Chad Kelly was a bit more dynamic than Payton Thorne is as an overall athlete. Like, he could make some stupid throws that he probably shouldn't make, and they end up getting to the right spot. And he had a bigger arm.
That's a fair statement.
And he had a bigger arm as well. So up a little bit on the wide receivers, but down just a notch at quarterback. And is that going to be maybe the same potential? I'm not sure. I think the wide receivers being freshmen is the only real cap on the offense's potential this year, because they haven't seen everything. They haven't been defended by the level of athletes they're going to be defended by here in the conference. So I'm saying yes, potential. Like the last month of the season, that's going to be when it's fun. When they've been out there for 8 games, and they've been pressed and they've been put under pressure, and our offense has found a way to stay productive and hopefully win these games or win a lot of them. Then we get to see these guys coming to their own. Cam may be ready day one. I think the rest of the guys need time, but if they get that time.
We're going to get into the rest of the guys here later in the show. But Caesar, real quick, chime in here, man. Like, is this better or just the same but effective?
I'm going to go with it's going to be on par with what we've seen in the past. I'm not I think it's too early to say if it's going to be better just based on where Auburn's offense has been in recent years. But I think it has the ability to be on par. Yes, the receivers are young. Talented, but young. Where I think that's a wash is I think this is the best running back room Hugh Freeze has ever had at any point.
Hands down, not even close.
This is a better running back room. Coupled with a running QB in Payton Thorne, obviously you don't want to run him nearly as much as you did last year, but I have a feeling that this offense has the ability to rely on his rush attack more than prior teams Hugh Freeze has coached in the past, even with the Malik Willis. I mean, obviously Malik Willis was very dynamic with his legs, but I think having your Jarquez's, your Damari Austins, your Jeremiah Cobbs in the backfield takes pressure off of holding Payton Thorne to make plays with his feet, and now you can begin to operate the offense. Teams have in the past have defended Auburn by stacking the box. Those passing lanes become a lot more available to you, and you got guys who can go get the ball now. You're forcing teams to have to play you more honest, and you're a lot more balanced as an offense this time around because you have the horses who can actually beat defenses when they sell out to stop the run. I think that in and of itself puts this offense on par with prior offenses. A little bit different, may not be throwing as much as those past offenses, but just as effective because of the threat they impose.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, I think, for a lot of fans to see what the proliferation of this offense looks like here in year 2. Obviously, they've got to make steps forward. This is a big year for Hugh Freeze. We've talked about the schedule. I think B, you talked about that last month. I was doing Locked On and ESPN 106, and I can tell you, I've been telling people, I think Hugh Freeze wants this Iron Bowl more than DeBoer is going to want it. I think that given how he's dominated in-state recruiting, if you can walk into Tuscaloosa and pull out a win, you will crush him in recruiting for the 2026 cycle. And then we'll see if he can continue to go across the country and get those 5 stars that they're bragging about now. Oh, we still got the number 2 recruiting class. That's not sustainable. If you're going to let your rival dominate in-state recruiting, and then you're one more year removed from being a part of that region. Yeah. So you're leveraging those relationships now, but I just wonder if the strength of those relationships will last with him being on the East Coast. Guys, before we get into the next part of this, I just want to acknowledge our title sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron. Guys, visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use code Get Your Weight Up to get your weights on. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention. I don't know if you could tell from the webcam view, but your boy is down 30 pounds so far this summer. Dropped a clean 30. That's in large part the Golden's Cast Iron, man. I've been working out with the weights at the house, trying to get into some kind of shape. Guys, health is wealth. Golden's Cast Iron can help you with that. Also, I've been eating healthy, and that's because I've been grilling on a Golden's Cast Iron grill. Use code TWR to get $65 off your fire pits and Kamado grills. They got great stuff over there. We appreciate them for being longtime sponsors. Also, this show is brought to you in part by show sponsor MANSCAPED. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? No, you got to groom more than once a week, hopefully. Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your balls are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. Introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code REPORT at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com. And guys, look, after you're done taking care of the boys, Joy Mode has you covered. So let's call out the obvious. Everyone wants to head into the bedroom with confidence, feeling like the best version of themselves. But the problem is sometimes intrusive thoughts get in the way. Or maybe we feel like it's just not reaching our full potential. What are our options? Well, you don't want to be QB2 in the bedroom. You want to be QB1. Pick, and you don't want to do it with a sketchy gas station pill or get prescribed some crazy drug with a bunch of side effects. That's where our friends over at JOYMODE come in. Imagine a supplement you can take with your favorite greens pack that gives you an extra dose of confidence and saves you the embarrassment and hassle of a traditional erection pill. Guys, visit usejoymode.com and use code REPORT there for 20% off plus free shipping. Their formulation has more than just sexual benefits, also athletic performance. They tout good for blood circulation, all kinds of great things there. We appreciate JOYMODE for sponsoring the show. And last but certainly not least, this show is brought to you by the Autograph app. Guys, we ask you to buy a lot of stuff. This is the one thing that we ask you to do that costs you absolutely zero money. So visit your phone's app store and download Autograph. Autograph is bringing you all your team's content in a single place. So whether you like to read articles or listen to podcasts, that stuff can be spread all over the internet, and you find it by random sometimes, or you waste time going to a lot of different websites to try to get your Auburn fix. Autograph has you covered. You can also buy tickets through the app. So if you want to visit a sporting event, they're bringing you tickets the same way Ticketmaster and Vivid does, but without all the extra fees. Every time you read an article or listen to a podcast, you earn coins, and with those coins, you can use those for rewards, which include discount on tickets to sporting events. Guys, I can't tell you, Auburn football is sold out. And Autograph may have you guys covered if you're looking for tickets. Their marketplace is second to none. Visit your phone's app store and use code REPORT to get all your Auburn content. It's a referral code. So when you're signing up, just look for that referral code section and make sure you put that in. Back to the conversation here, fellas. Look.
Sidebar, being QB2 in your own bedroom is crazy.
It really is.
Mike said, don't be QB2. Like, whoa. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Who's QB1?
I don't know. That's why you need to take JOYMODE. So you don't have to worry about it. So I'm dead. All right. So Payton Thorne has a stranglehold on the offense, but he is not the only person who has performed admirably in camp. Guys, Malcolm Simmons continues to make waves. Now, we saw him during the first scrimmage. You guys saw the reports. He was all over the place. They were using him in jet sweeps. He was a great slot receiver. He had a 75-yard touchdown catch from Holden Gurner that was somewhat contested. What do you make of the freshman? Now, he's one of the Freeze 4 that came in, and it felt like not a lot of people were talking about Malcolm. Now, I think, Caesar, he came in after the spring.
Summer.
Yeah, because Kane and Coleman came in spring, right?
Yeah.
And Simmons and Thompson came in after. But it looks like he's projecting to see a lot of time early. Is this a good thing for Hugh Freeze that Malcolm Simmons is looking to jump up the depth chart, or does this mean that the guys in front of him maybe aren't up to snuff?
Could be.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, without seeing the reps that Robert Lewis, I'm sorry. I mean, it's been a while. I'm sorry, y'all. And some of the other new additions have been making. Like, it's really hard to say, is Malcolm Simmons just outperforming everybody in front of him, or is he just outperforming the freshman status? Is that what it does? He looks past
great.
His years.
Yeah, he looks past his years. I can tell you
past his years, but is he better than the other guys? Like, that's what I don't know. Like, he made a great play on a long pass. Great. Are the other guys not doing their job? Because we saw some tape of, what's his name, Jair Shorter before he came in, Hollywood before he came in, Hooks, and it was like, okay, we know what they can do, but are they doing it? No, they weren't doing it here. We know what the players who came in here, that they had a good potential, some of the new additions, but that doesn't mean it's been realized here yet. If Malcolm Simmons is realizing his potential in camp, then that bodes well. But does that mean that the other guys are misses? And that's what we don't know. Did we miss on any of these guys? I don't think we really know that until a couple of games and guys are getting these reps.
B. Freeze did come out and say, like, there was a quote from Auburn football where he said, we hit on all 4 of these guys.
And the new guys.
Yeah. And that's not something that he was saying last year about, I mean, they praised Jay Fair. We saw some Jay Fair's electric stuff. But I will say nothing they said about Jay Fair to me equals the type of language we're hearing them use surrounding these 4 guys here. But Malcolm Simmons, we knew he was talented. We knew he was extremely talented, but I'm not sure I expected this meteoric rise up the charts just from a summer and a fall camp. Caesar, like, what do you think here, man? Like, is Malcolm Simmons, how much do we get to see him game 1, do you think, given all the reports that we see?
I think we will get to see him. I think against an opponent like Alabama A&M, you have an opportunity to play your depth in this game. And I think when it comes to the praise for Malcolm Simmons, I don't think it's because the guys ahead of him, your Robert Lewis's, Keandre Lambert-Smith, it's not because and Keandre Lambert-Smith has been injured throughout fall camp. They've been taking the light on him because he sustained an ankle injury. So you haven't heard a lot about him. You can have serviceable guys, productive guys in front of him, but you may just be talking about a certain player because they're just dynamic. Yeah. Right. Not every receiver is dynamic. They can be productive, but dynamic, meaning we have to figure out a way to get this guy on the field. And I think it's good that you're talking about a freshman in that way because you don't really have to rely on Malcolm Simmons. He can still learn the offense. He can still get the reps when he get those opportunities. But in your back pocket, you have someone who can bust a wide open play at any given moment. And if he begins to take advantage of what we see in Alabama A&M, this is what's key to me. When he gets his opportunities, he's going to have to make the most of them. Give this coaching staff something to think that, you know what, we may need to feature him a little bit more in the Cal game. We may need to feature him a little bit more in the New Mexico. And as he continues to win his reps, he continues to showcase in game what we've been hearing about him in practice. Now you have more depth. You have a guy that, hey, teams can't game plan for. They don't even know about this kid. Give them something in a game and watch Malcolm explode and potentially take it to the house. I like where Malcolm is right now. Yes, I think we see him in the Alabama A&M game. It's up to him. Hopefully he gets an opportunity to get the ball in his hands and do something special.
B, it's wild, the conversations that we're having about these young guys here. There's definitely a different feeling on the plains. The coach is blustering a little bit more about the talent that he has. But my question is, if Malcolm Simmons is the real deal, rather than, the first part of this conversation was about, who does he jump? Or do you just expand the packages that you're running to get all these guys on your field? How prepared do you think Hugh Freeze is going to be this year to say, you know what, I'm going to throw Robert Lewis and Malcolm Simmons at you, and we're going to run some 10 personnel out here and just confuse the shit out of people?
The great thing is that you've got some similar body types, like Lambert-Smith being held back a little bit because of injury. Well,
he's a man on a mission this year too.
Yeah, and he was. But you've got big bodies though. Like you've got big bodies that are ready to step in. And unlike before, we had, there's one guy who can do that one thing. He's not in, and now we're screwed. Well, that's not the case anymore. You've got speedsters, multiple. You can put multiple guys in. Bryce Kane, an incredible speedster. Malcolm Simmons can burn too. There's not one guy who, if he goes down, it's like, I don't know how I'm going to get that production from that position. And that's the biggest advantage of this team, I think, is, yes, you have one that's truly special. Cam Coleman is special. Is he a burner? I don't know if he's a burner, but what he is a guarantee. Do you have other guarantees? You might. We don't know. Cam's been there since the spring, and he's been a guarantee since he stepped on campus as I'm going to get the ball. I don't know if Perry Thompson has worked his way into his ceiling for what he could be as a freshman yet. He could be equally as valuable as Cam Coleman. We just don't know it because he hasn't gotten that number of reps yet. So time will tell for sure. Even though we're down a guy or two because of injuries, I think this, again, the multiplicity of talent at this position is now outrageous. There really shouldn't be too much worry about this, unless you lose like 2 or 3. Now I'm worried You lose 2 or 3 guys to injury. Now I'm worried about what we can do and what we can produce, how that affects game planning. But we are a long way away from having to worry about that yet. I just hope, again, if the difference was the system and how he was calling plays or how he wasn't calling plays, Hugh Freeze last year, well, now let's see what you're going to do with this talent. Because you got the guys. You did the work. You got the guys. You upgraded the roster. Let's see what you do with it.
Yeah, Perry Thompson impressed in the first fall scrimmage. He caught a 60-yarder from Hank Brown. He went out there and did some really good things. But all reports are from this last scrimmage is that he's continued to build on that momentum that he's got out there as well too. But to B's point, until you see it in the game, you're maybe just a little bit cautious about pumping them up too much. But it looks like these guys are primed to break the lineup. If you're Hugh Freeze, I think from a recruiting standpoint, you want to get these guys on the field as fast as you can, possibly, and out of here to the NFL while you recruit the next crop of guys that are coming up. In an ideal world, you're putting these guys into the NFL as soon as they're eligible so that you can guarantee spots in recruiting for the guys who are coming up behind them. And there's a clear streamline at that position. So, these first 3 games, I think, especially A&M being the first, will be a good opportunity for Freeze to hopefully blow A&M out so you can satisfy your vets and you can get the young guys on the field and then start to make the hard decisions between. And you kind of said it, like, it's not necessarily that these guys are not good, but if there's somebody better, we're going to play them because we're always going to play the best guy.
Right.
That feels like a proposition that Auburn fans have not been accustomed to. It's always been, well, he must be terrible. Yeah. If this guy beat him out. Well, no, maybe, I always go back to Clemson when Trevor Lawrence replaced, what was the guy's name? He went to
Kelly Bryant.
Kelly Bryant, right? Mm-hmm. Bryant, he wasn't the best quarterback in the world, but he wasn't terrible, and he won a lot of games at Clemson. Mm-hmm. They won games with him. Eventually, Dabo had to pull
try to get him.
Right. Mm-hmm. Eventually, Dabo pulled the plug and just said, I've got somebody better. Now, I think Clemson is a very different position now. Later here, I don't know. They opened the season with Georgia. I hope that's a beat down. Guys, I'm not a Georgia fan. However, I do like what they have, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun to watch this year, just personally. But I would love to see them beat down on the ACC, especially with FSU taking that thumping in Ireland.
Passing Dabo by, just my personal opinion.
As soon as he swore off NIL, it was.
I think the game is.
It was, yeah. When he was just like, "Oh, our NIL is Jesus, and He's going to send NIL manna from heaven and save us."
Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry, Dabo. But
and he didn't even pick up a guy at the portal this offseason too.
Yeah, it's his attitude toward this is incredible. I mean, I would want a refund if I extended his contract a few years ago. But Hugh Freeze has not done that, and what that's led to has been the influx of talent that we've seen. Now, outside of wide receiver, I know there'll be a lot of talk about that. There were some questions about the O-line. Again, anonymous report out of this scrimmage is the O-line has begun to gel as well, too. So they're looking and feeling a little bit more confident. We heard things about them moving, and Hugh Freeze said things about moving Dylan Wade around on that line. We don't know exactly where they settled. The report lacked that specificity, but it seems like the O-line has gelled. So if your O-line is together and your receivers look good, B, what's the ceiling in game one? Does Auburn put 60 on A&M, or how much of this? How much do you run it up in game one if this O-line looks good?
If the O-line looks good, you run it up just because you can. I want all my backs to get touches. Mm-hmm. I know Justin Jones got moved up because of the depth at running back. Yeah, get him some touches. I want all my running backs getting at least a touchdown. I want the wide receivers to start to stretch their legs a little bit. I want to get some of the younger guys some good reps with Payton Thorne, because that's going to be the quarterback. So if we want Perry to work himself into game contention, into starter contention, then you got to give him some reps and let him get out there and run those routes and do that blocking. And I want all of them to do it. So, no, I don't want them to take their foot off the gas. You can run the ball to protect the quarterback and the wide receivers. You don't have to just needlessly have them taking hits for no reason. But I want to see them throw it. I want to see the starter, the guy who's assumed going to be the starter the whole year, throw to the younger guys. They got to get in shape for this. They got to get ready for what this is going to be, and that chemistry that they haven't had a chance to develop yet. no better time than to do it when you got somebody who can't really punch back like A&M. So I want to see it.
If this line has gelled and Payton Thorne has time and protection there, Caesar, I think personally you might see Payton Thorne be a top 6 passer in the league. Top 6 in the league if he is running plays on schedule.
Okay.
They're saying he's got a chokehold on the offense. If you're going to give him time to sit back there, I think his ceiling with a good line, if the line, and obviously this line has to stay healthy, but you've got some young guys there that may step up. The kid that they got from California, DeAndre Carter, I saw him out at practice. He looks absolutely massive, right? Does he make, maybe you get an injury or something, but does he make the same type of jump that Connor Lew made last year as a true freshman?
Is there a Connor Lew in this offensive line class?
Yeah, I think that Hugh Freeze has positioned himself well for his young guys to get field promotions essentially this year. Now, again, line is one of those things where it's the most physically developmental position, I think, in college football. Sure. Right? Because they have to do more to get their bodies ready to play at this level than any other position. So if you're a receiver, you can kind of come in, and if you're fast and you can run routes, you can play early. Quarterback's a little harder, but it's not really about the physicality. It's more just about the knowledge and the speed of the game. DB on defense, again, those guys seem a little bit more ready. But to me, the prospect of this for this line and Payton Thorne means more protection, means a better Payton Thorne. And he wants to run the ball less. He said that. He's been clear. I think he had 130 rush attempts last year. He doesn't want to do that. What do you think about this line and what it means for Payton Thorne?
Mike, I'm going to be paying close attention to the left side of the line. Auburn brought in Percy Lewis from Mississippi State. You had an interview with Cole Kublik, and he said something that alerted me. He was concerned about Percy Lewis because in his watching of film with him at Mississippi State, he left a lot to be desired in terms of his play. And he was curious to see if he had shown any improvement, right? Then we hear a week ago that Hugh Freeze is planning on moving Percy inside or moving him elsewhere on the line, which again, I'm reminded of what I heard Cole Kublik tell you, Mike, and now I'm concerned about the left side of the line. Now, can Dylan Wade go back out to left tackle? Sure, it's not like he hasn't played that position before,
right?
But you begin to wonder, a position that prior to spring seemed to have been figured out now seems in flux with the season ahead. Now, one of the things that you guys have mentioned is the beauty of our schedule is that we have time in the month of September to figure it out. Yeah, it is a bit disappointing that we are here, though, with this point of where we are with that side of the line. The right side of the line seems to actually be sorted out. I'm actually excited to see what that side of the line does. The left side, I'm a bit concerned about. Do we have some depth and talent? Sure. But you want to see Auburn begin to shorten up those deficiencies and those issues as soon as possible, because again, Oklahoma will be here sooner than we expect. We don't want to be asking these same questions going into that game.
Yeah, I agree with you. Cole is always spot on about offensive line stuff. Obviously, as a former offensive lineman, Auburn legend, he had some concerns. Again, reports from the scrimmage are that they figured some of that stuff out. They feel a little better than they did about 10 days ago at that position. So it seems like it's coming together for Hugh Freeze. Guys, it's coming together for us at the War Rapport. B. Will is back, and the season is only 6 days away. No more Saturdays between us and college football on the plains. So we appreciate everybody for joining us this Saturday. We're going to get to the mid-roll break here, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what other freshmen we might see on Saturday, or what other players that are not being talked about here we'll see. So let's get to the break, and we'll be right back with more War Rapport.
This edition of the War Rapport is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelikarangeroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Guys, you know the deal. Join up as a member. $5.99 a month. The season is almost here. We need you guys to join up because our game day experience is going to have some exclusive member benefits. Our halftime and pregame chats, we do member only. So if you want to be a part of that conversation, make sure you join up. Also, you can give the gift of the War Report to make sure somebody else gets a chance to sign up. So if they're on the fence about whether to do it or not, you can bless somebody with a membership. Hit that gifted membership button right there on your YouTube app or on your desktop, however you're watching us today. We appreciate you guys for helping us continue to grow our community. Also, want to thank show sponsor Vintage 2298 Restaurant and Butcher Shop. The address is right there in the name. Go visit them at 2298 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama. Guys, I've got the best eats in town. Our guy, Chef Randall Baldwin, is up there serving up dreams in the kitchen at Vintage 2298 Restaurant and Butcher Shop. And if you just want to cook at home, if you've got a Golden's Cast Iron Grill, you can go to the butcher shop and get prime cuts of meat, take it home, and grill it yourself. Whatever your taste is there, they've got you covered. Also want to thank Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code RAPPORT to get 15% off, plus free shipping when you visit rogueshop.com. Guys, pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has you covered. So please visit them. You guys do a great job of patroning them for us. We appreciate our guy Richard over there for sponsoring. And last but certainly not least, Autograph. This show is brought to you by the Autograph app. Visit your phone's app store and download Autograph. Have you ever been looking for your team's content, but you feel like you're coming across the same stuff over and over again? Well, Autograph has you covered. Never miss a second of your team's coverage with Autograph. Just download the app and use referral code RAPPORT. Your app will automatically populate with all the Auburn content you can actually handle. Guys, whether it's reading articles or listening to podcasts, Autograph has you covered. Even if you want tickets to an event, the Autograph app is a place where you can purchase tickets and to your favorite sporting event. Every article read, every podcast listened, you earn coins, and you can use those coins for rewards inside the app. This is absolutely free. This is a way you can support us without spending a single dime. Just download the Autograph app, use code RAPPORT, and read and consume your team's favorite content. Jumping back in here, Caesar.
And by the way, y'all, B Will was with us, gave us a good 40 minutes of joining us. He has COVID. He's fighting an illness, so
yeah,
he jumped off, but he gave us some time. So that's where B Will is. So you will be seeing more of B Will as the season goes on.
But yeah, it's been going around for some reason, man. The COVID bug has been getting everybody.
Well, if you got kids, you're going to be susceptible to it at some point. Yeah. So that's what happened with him.
Let's get to some comments here before we jump back into the conversation. Cedric Lacey becoming a member. We appreciate you, brother, for jumping into our community. Also, Ephesians 2:8-9. Bro, if B Will ain't back in this live, I'm convinced he ain't coming back. I missed the whole crew. Well, he came back for you, so we appreciate that. Daniel Denny, but he was released from the hospital. I did
That's
see
the news of the weekend.
Not only did he get released, but talked to some of his teammates. He's walking. This is a miracle. They were expecting some permanent paralysis, I believe, from this. Don't quote me on that. It was just a report that we saw. But, regardless of the reports, we're excited, and, we're going to continue to keep him in our prayers. So if you're a praying person, please continue to pray for Brian and his family as he continues his road to recovery.
And just pray for them just in general, because even with this amazing news, he still has to cope with not having his brother. His brother was not as fortunate as he was. So continue to keep that family in your prayers for sure.
Want to thank our girl Haley Davies, last name changed there, for donating some memberships. We appreciate you, Haley. Tiffany B also coming through with the memberships. Let's see if we can get about 30 of these before we get out of here today. Let's jump to super chat here. Caesar J Brand says B Will talks about continuity. Let's see some. I think that's a shot at him being on the show more often. So, be Will, you've been called out. Let's see here. What else we got? Kyle Sweat, member for 35 months. That's almost 3 years, Kyle. We appreciate you. How many freshmen we're going to see on game one? I count 13, and that's amazing on scouting and recruiting the guys. This is something we're going to talk about, Kyle, here in the second half of the show. So hang with us on that one. Greg Wheatley says, Mike G, good interview with the Oklahoma guy. That's our guy, Josh Mahler. He's a part of our podcast network. Please go check them out at the Rising to the Occasion podcast. But he didn't seem overly confident to me. You wouldn't know that by reading the comments. Everybody was just like, I don't know how these Sooners are so soon, right? Like that's all I heard in the comment section. But great information on Oklahoma and their prospects for the season. Please go check out that building report. Daniel Denny again says, Saban also said Auburn is the most improved SEC team. Did you see this one on game day?
No, I missed
he
that.
expects Auburn to be the most improved team in the SEC and to give people a lot of trouble. Is this 4D chess? Is he setting Hugh Freeze up to fail, or does he mean this? Does he, what is it? I have questions about this.
Well, I do know that he has a good relationship with Freeze. And at one point,
he wanted to hire him, didn't he?
He wanted to hire him. So Nick Saban has a tremendous amount of respect for Hugh Freeze and what he does. And so I think if for nothing else, seeing how he is on the recruiting trail, seeing what he's capable of doing with talent on the field, he may be onto something. Time will tell if he's as good of a prophet as he was a coach. We'll see if this comes to fruition, but this is what Auburn fans and people close to the program are sensing with this program as well, is that they will be much more improved than they were last year. So I don't think Saban is off here, but we got to see it.
CM Pat says, look, as long as he doesn't run a million times, it doesn't turn the ball over. Speaking of Payton Thorne here, I'm good with it. Look, I think that less running and more throwing is a good thing for Payton Thorne. And this is his last year of college football. So, he wants to be able to show off to scouts that he can throw the ball and run an offense, I think. Daryl Brownfield says, I think Hank Brown was put at number 2 at the number 2 spot because he has a chance to take over that starting spot if Thorne doesn't take the next step. Now, if the bowl game is any indication, I agree with Daryl here. He seemed to acquit himself very well in a limited amount of time at the end of the bowl game. And he showed incredible chemistry with the receivers. He had some of that same chemistry during the first scrimmage of fall camp, and they're going to be looking for him to take the next step. But if you're Hank, this is it, man. Like, I think that if he is going to be the starting quarterback at any point at Auburn University, he's going to need a little bit of luck here. Meaning that in the time that he shows this season, he's going to have to be exceptional. And with the guys that they're talking about bringing in, you've got Walker who's sitting there. They're possibly recruiting Deuce Knight to come, if you believe a lot of the report. I mean, Notre Dame fans have completely given up on Deuce. It's a foregone conclusion that he may flip to Auburn. Freeze is sitting on a consensus top 5 recruiting class right now, with the possibility of adding a couple more kids that may get him to 3 or 4. It's going to be tough. You're constantly bringing in talent, and I think this is a critical year for Hank. So hopefully he can take advantage of that if he gets the chance.
I think he's in the driver's seat, Mike. I think Hank Brown, and I may have mentioned this early in the season. Hank Brown's goal was to position himself to be in the thick of the QB race for next season. We already know who QB1 was going to be this fall. Barring some meltdown that I think Auburn would struggle as a result of, I see him remaining QB2. To your point, he has to take advantage of the opportunities when he gets on, much like what we're talking about with the Malcolm Simmons and the other freshmen. This is your limited opportunity to show what you can do. You want to position yourself to be in the conversation when the QB competition opens up in the fall, in the spring next year. I think Hank Brown has done that. Stay healthy, play well, put something on tape, and I think you're in good shape, despite who Auburn brings in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But sticking with that theme, Caesar, let's get into the last portion of the show here, talking about who else we expect to emerge in week 1 of Auburn's college football season. Now, obviously, Hank Brown is going to be a name here, but look, how much do you expect to see Hank Brown possibly on Saturday? Would it be a disappointment if, for some reason, the game is closer and they got to keep Peyton in there past midway through the third quarter? Like, what's a reasonable expectation for Hank Brown?
If we're unable to see Hank Brown, that means the game is closer than it should be, and that would be a massive disappointment.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Alabama A&M, but Alabama A&M, this is a gimme game. This is supposed to be a gimme game for Auburn, a program that appears to be on the rise. You want to put the game away and out of question as soon as possible. You want to go into halftime knowing Payton Thorne has at most 1-2 more series in the second half before we turn the ball over to Hank Brown and to some of the reserves on offense. You want to begin to start playing around with your depth, because especially when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, you got a lot of talent, but you don't have a lot of experienced talent. This is about getting those guys some experience, even on the offensive side of the ball. This is about giving those guys some experience so that you can no longer say, we don't have a lot of experience past the first team on both sides of the ball. So if you're not playing Hank Brown, you're not playing some of your reserve guys, you're not starting to see some of those freshmen that you brought in, that's a concern. I expect to see Hank Brown midway through the third at the latest against Alabama A&M, and I expect him. I remember there was a time under, and I hate to pick on a former Auburn head coach, but under Malzahn, one of the things that frustrated me is that when we finally got to see the second QB, all they were doing was handing the ball up the middle.
Yeah,
I want to see Hank Brown run the offense. I want to see why he won QB2. That's what I want to see. Have him run the offense. Have him make valuable use of these reps to get acclimated, Mike. You're not playing from behind. The game's not out of reach, and the game is not tight to where if you make a mistake, you put the game in doubt. You have the lead. Run the offense, settle in, put some valuable things on the tape so we can coach you up throughout the week when we look at film. That's what I want to see for him, and I want to see for some of the rest of the reserves. You do that shortly after halftime, I'm good with that.
Yeah, this is going to be an ongoing discussion. Now, I've been on record in saying that I feel like Payton Thorne is going to, barring injury, is going to finish the season as a starter. I expect him to play well. If you're Hank, there's another way to position yourself for the spring, where you don't take over as the starter. That means anytime you hit the field, similar to how Jeremy Johnson made people feel when Nick Marshall was here, when he got on the field and he got a half of football. I think it was Arkansas that they played and threw for like 300 yards and a half. And everyone was like, yeah, we're going to be in good hands. Now, we know how that turned out, but I think this is a different situation for Hank. I expect that, he's the real deal. He's got a gunslinger arm. He's a self-proclaimed gunslinger, and he already has chemistry with these wide receivers. They like Hank, man. He seems to read defenses well. It's a moving year for him where he's got to try to solidify it. Moving past quarterback, because I think, we can agree it's Peyton, Hank, Holden, and then Walker, who I did not expect to see on the field this year. But running back. Now, running back has been kind of quiet. No doubts about Jarquez. He was voted preseason first team All SEC. Damari Alston will be splitting reps with him. But they found ways to get Jeremiah Cobb the ball last year. How much do we expect them to use Cobb this year with that three-headed monster at running back?
They have to use him. They have to use this guy because he
can catch too. He's underrated catcher. Yeah,
he's dangerous in the open field. He's another weapon that can produce for you. You have to figure out how to use him, and I'm hoping that Derek Nix, who's also the running backs coach, have devised a plan and strategy to get him involved in this offense early and often, even though you have two very solid, capable, productive, and more senior running backs ahead of him in Jarquez and Damari. So yeah, I expect to see Cobb at some point in this game plan. Obviously, he may not get as many touches as those other guys, but I expect to see him somewhere in there.
Yeah, Cobb is such an intriguing player to me. Now, you brought in one running back in this class, and Alvin Henderson in this next class that's coming. But Jarquez will be out here. Damari's got some time left on him.
I think they're looking to bring another running back in too, Mike.
Yeah, it's running back is such an interesting position, I think, right now, because there was so much focus on the other skill positions. Running back to me is just quiet, right? Like, you got a solid running back from in the state. We'll see what they continue to do there. Obviously, I think it bodes well for you that this is Jarquez's last year in recruiting. But does Damari solidify himself as the guy this year? Does Cobb jump him? It's going to be a lot of stuff, I think, to watch there. Moving on back to wide receiver. Now, we talked about Cam Coleman to death, so we'll skip over him. But Perry Thompson was another guy who, on the outside, seemed to make a jump up the depth chart. So, do we think when they release their 2 deep, is Perry Thompson right behind Keandre Lambert-Smith there? Like, so Keandre, he was dealing with a foot injury this fall. How comfortable you think Hugh Freeze is going to be about throwing Perry Thompson out there wide out opposite of Cam Coleman?
I don't know, actually. I think Perry Thompson at this point is firmly entrenched with the second team. Now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mike, Camden Brown is behind Cam Coleman.
That's what it feels like. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. Okay. We'll see what they release, but we know
that puts Perry. But again, you're talking about rotating receivers in, so it's not like Perry Thompson won't get on the field, right? At some point, if they're going to be rotating in receivers the way they want to, Perry's going to see the field at some point. But I think, as far as where he is on the depth chart, I don't see him jumping fifth-year senior Keandre Lambert-Smith anytime soon, unless injury or something like that happens. But I do think we do see Perry. I like Malcolm Simmons. I do think at some point you begin to see Perry Thompson get out there and have an opportunity to make some plays.
Yeah, I don't think that Bryce Kane is lost in this debate either, right? Like, Bryce has done a lot of great things in fall camp and during the summer. We're hearing nothing but great things about him from his teammates. They've got an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position.
And that's my point, Mike. Like, in the slot, I think it's, even with Jay Fair moving on, you have a lot of names there that this coaching staff likes.
Yeah.
Like, for the Robert Lewis, I know you haven't really been high on him, but Sam Jackson is there. You have Bryce Kane, you have Malcolm Simmons. Like, you got some competition at that position. So to me, my eyes are on that position to see who rises to the top in game day situations, who are making the plays the way this coaching staff begins to develop the confidence moving forward that this is our guy at this spot. Hopefully you have 2 guys emerge to where you can go to that 10 personnel that you begin to hint at as a recent, right? So I'm curious to see.
That's where I was going. At some point, you got to think Hugh Freeze is going to try to expand what he's doing. Just how prepared for that are they going to be? Now, early in the fall, we had a press conference, and he said, before the first practice, he said, I'll be disappointed if it doesn't look sharp, because we've whittled this down to the things that we feel like we want to do and do at a high level. Now, what is that? Is that just 12? We had been hearing they may be running a ton of 12 personnel. There, Robert Lewis said in an interview that we had with him in one of the press gaggles that it was going to be a lot of 12 personnel. But there's no slot receiver on the field in 12. Like, Robert Lewis isn't on the field in 12 personnel as we expect the depth chart to stack up. So that's going to be interesting to me. How prepared will Hugh Freeze be to expand this offense and say, you know what, This is going better. We got to get some of these playmakers on the field. Let's go to 11 and get that slot out there. Let's go to more 10 personnel and get 2 of those guys on the field. Because, look, I mean, I hear everybody on Sam Jackson. However, if these other guys are playing at a level equal to Sam, I don't know why you don't go with the young guys who are going to be your future.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? If it's equal, if he's not clearly better than these guys, I would go with the young guys that you invested all those resources into getting here. So it will be interesting to see. Or can you put something on the field to get Sam Jackson on the field, one of those other guys as well, too, and just let them all go out there and do their thing? Is that the thing? Again, ongoing conversation that I think will be interesting. Now, we just spoke about offensive line, so I'll skip over them. But let's go to tight end here for a second. Rivaldo Fairweather projects to be one of the better tight ends in the SEC this coming season. He led Auburn in receiving yards last year. I think it was him and Jay Fair were the top 2 in receiving yards. But he also led Auburn in catches, I believe, and in targets. Opposite of him, we've got Frazier, Luke Deal, and Michael Riley. Now, early in the first scrimmage, we saw a lot of Michael Riley. He caught a touchdown pass. He did some things. But how much do you expect outside of Fairweather that the other tight ends are going to get a chance? I forgot Rico Walker, the other kid that they brought in here through the portal.
Luke Deal's still around.
Yeah, he is. In his life, it feels like he's been in school for like 8 years. But I love Luke. He's one of my favorite people on this planet. But he didn't catch a pass last year.
No.
He didn't catch a single pass last year. Michael Riley may be the best blocker in the group. And he's fast and he can catch. But he's young and maybe they're feeling like he has time. So what are you looking for out of this tight end room here going into the fall?
I've heard good things about Brandon Frazier this fall, Count.
He caught a few passes last year.
Yeah, he did. I think he's primed to take a next step. I've been a big fan of Michael Riley just because he has that dog in him.
Yeah, he's got the dog.
Anyone who likes to block and hit people and make plays, you got to reward that big guy. So those are the 2 outside of Fairweather. I'm curious to see how they use Fairweather this year. If he is treated as a slot receiver, obviously they may have him with his hand in the dirt at times. But I'm curious to see what they do because you will see some 12 personnel with this lineup. If we're talking about who outside of Fairweather steps up and can contribute, you're definitely talking about 12 personnel. Rivaldo is already out there, but you're looking at who's the next guy up. And I like Brandon Frazier. Obviously, Freeze likes to throw to his tight ends. So to me, that highlights him. Michael Riley in some run situations, even as a pass catcher. Obviously, he can catch the ball as well. I think those are the 2 that stands out to me that I'm looking forward to see once they get on the field. How do the coaches utilize those tight ends or that tight end group? Whether it's short yardage situations in the red zone, how do they utilize that? Because you still have a very talented tight end group outside of Fairweather, right? So I'm curious to see what they do there.
Jumping over to the defensive side of the ball here, and we're going to end on this, but Eugene Asante got voted preseason All-SEC, but Jalen McLeod projects to have a really good season. We've been hearing great things about Can Lee. My question is simple here, and I think it's the most important question that Auburn has defensively for week 1. Will this or will this not be a shutout? I'll put it on you this year. How many shutouts, Caesar? I went with 0, but I was asking that's a 0.
I think you're getting about 1.
One shutout? Okay.
You might get 1 shutout. And it would probably have to be this game if that were to happen.
All right.
It's just you just never know as the season goes on from a health standpoint. How you're looking, and oftentimes too, sometimes you end up sleepwalking, not necessarily sleepwalking, but you put in a basic game plan. You're looking ahead to you may have a big conference opponent the following week. This is the week, right? This is the week where you're focused because it's the first game of the season. We've been hearing great things about the defense. Durkin, it seems like he's going to pressure you if you're a Pee Wee League team, a high school team. He's bringing pressure. Mm-hmm. He's going to make it difficult for you to operate. He's going to make it confusing for opposing offenses. And I think in week one, where people obviously there's film of DJ Durkin's defense around if you've been paying attention to him at previous stops. But for what Auburn is going to do, I think this is a good opportunity for Auburn to potentially get the shutout against A&M this weekend, if possible. Obviously, there's a lot of talent on the second team defense with some of the freshmen coming in. I'm curious to see with DeMarcus Riddick. We've been hearing he's have a great camp this fall. The defensive line, I'm curious to see the depth and how they look. They were actually impressive in the spring game. I'm curious to see if that translated over into fall camp and into the season. I think that your opportunity to get your shutout is this weekend.
Yeah. I've been high on DeMarcus Riddick since spring, and I warned people not to sleep on him. Now, again, reports are emerging that he is looking absolutely beastly. He's a smart player as well as a physically gifted player. And so, DeMarcus Riddick is one of those names that, to me, and all the excitement about the offense got lost in the conversation, but you'll see some people emerge there on defense that are going to surprise a lot of people this year. Well, that's it, guys. Before we get out of here, I want to thank title sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/rapport and use code Get Your Weight Up to get 15% off your weights, as well as code TWR to get $65 off your fire pits and Kamado grills. I'm going to be cooking on my Kamado grill here in just a second. We appreciate Golden's Cast Iron for everything that they do for us here at the War Rapport. Also want to thank show sponsor Manscaped. Visit manscaped.com and use code rapport to get 20% off plus free shipping. These will be, the Lawnmower 5.0, they're saying, will be your ball's new best friend. So, again, manscaped.com, use code rapport to get 20% off free shipping. Also, JOYMODE, visit usejoymode.com and 20% off plus free shipping with code rapport. JOYMODE is giving you guys a little boost in the bedroom this fall. So after your team wins the game, you will probably win big in the bedroom with JOYMODE. Use joymode.com, use code rapport. Also, I want to remind you guys to sign up as patrons. Please, please, please join our community and give the gift of the War Rapport. We appreciate everybody who does that for us as well, too. Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Weekend Tailgate. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with the morning drop and Wednesday with the midweek report. We're signing off as always. War Eagle.
War Eagle.